You learned how to cook from your mother. She learned how to cook from her mother. Your grandmother learned how to cook from her mother. Okay, now you're a cook. Your great-great-grandmother was a terrible cook, so what does that make you?
Yeah. Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too. Muscle matters, because they do, don't they, Steve?
Yes, they do.
I love it, Steve. There's one thing that I always can depend on is those biceps on Muscle Matters. You give us credibility, but so does our guest, Blake from Grindhaus.
Grindhaus.
Grindhaus. Now, he said that there is no ethnicity to that name, right?
No German affiliation whatsoever.
No.
It's probably sacrilege somewhere.
I was going to say, somewhere there's a Russian rolling his eyes at you.
I know, they're like this
The
guy.
great, the rolling in the ice.
I love it because if you catch our lunch break session with Blake and our our Ministry Matters, hey, you're going to hear the story. So make sure you catch them all. And so we're talking about muscles today. And as you know, Steve has a very reliable nutrition store in town called Sportslander's West. And it's at
7420 District Boulevard, right across the street from Nestle. Hope to see you soon.
You're not going to miss it. And I can tell you that you're gonna get the truth. You're gonna get the honesty. That's what I like about Blake too. It's as we've talked about how his gym and his philosophy is his ministry. I like the way he does it. But tell us a little bit how muscles affected your life, Blake, because they did. Because I know Steve's story, and Steve's been very successful in powerlifting. We've talked a lot about it, catchy episodes, and bodybuilding, and training and nutrition. Steve's got the full package.
Muscles mean a lot to me. They matter a lot in my life. Okay,
yes.
That's on brand, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I started lifting weights in the 7th grade. My dad was taking me to Body Exchange before going to middle school. I think I was like one of a handful of kids doing it my age. And
because your dad did it.
Correct.
Yeah, I remember your dad.
I love my dad to death. And even late in his life now, well into his 60s, still has a great physique. And, that taught me a lot about discipline and working for what you want at a very young age. We talked on the last show about, lifting weights is very binary. It's inputs and outputs, and you get what you put in. And that was a lesson that I learned in the weight room that I'm not sure I would have gotten anywhere else in my lifestyle.
Well, there's a term, because, my degree's in computer science. There's a term in the IT business called garbage in, garbage out. And you see it, right?
Yes.
Over at your sport,
Yes.
over nutrition store.
Yes.
Garbage in,
Garbage out. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's something you learned early.
100%.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say that, because I ended up playing college football and all that stuff. And what we were doing was not performance-based, but it was doing the best what we had with the knowledge we had at the time. My dad came to the golden area bodybuilding as you did, and so we were still following a lot of those principles. But I think that how it carried over later in my life was allowing me an opportunity to go play college football at a high level and to work with, what the Lord had given me genetically and things like that, and really optimizing, what I was born with. So ultimately, I do attribute a lot of the opportunity that I had later on in my education and playing and all that kind of stuff to what my dad instilled in me early on. And even to this day, I still say, from a biased point of view, 7th grade is the time you want to start. And it's becoming even more important as years go on. Kids are starting earlier and earlier, and I'm very thankful for, the foundation that my dad gave me.
Well, the foundation he gave you is something Steve and I talk a lot about. It's genetics.
Oh,
You can't beat genetics.
Yes.
You can't, it's hard to make up for genetics. I do agree with Tim Tebow, who says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But it's hard to beat genetics when somebody may be blessed a little more than you are, right?
They matter.
So it is. So I love it because I know Steve worked with a lot of powerlifters, and it's there again. I know one thing that Steve and I've done because I've seen people come in. We size things up, and that's a gift you have too, right? You look at the flesh before anything else works itself out, right? You know, if you're a coach, you look at the body and you're like, oh my gosh. You know,
I've never made a great athlete with a small backside. That's a Louis Simmons. But I didn't come up with that. But it's so true, right?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
No, I think one of the cool things, like you were saying in the previous episodes, muscles matter because it mattered for your spiritual walk. I mean, without that muscle and God put that on your heart, tell the audience about that spiritual walk, how you had to take that leap and go from a solid career into training.
Yeah. So, like we were saying on the previous episode, that passion for developing the body, but also, finding an outlet for athletic aspirations, ended up proving very, very fruitful, coupled with what I had learned becoming a teacher and understanding kids and all that kind of stuff. Good coaching is just good teaching,
yes.
Right? And I think that anyone would agree, being able to disseminate high levels of, knowledge at a very elementary level, basically being able to write those things on a napkin and give it to the waitress and teach her how to develop her biceps, right? Well, for me, it's the hamstrings, getting kids faster and things like that.
You guys still probably go places they go, hey, could you wipe me a workout? Right? Huh, Steve?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you too.
100%.
I don't get that much anymore.
100%.
I'm sure you guys do all the time. It's like, yeah, I'm going to put the basics down. You can get any fitness magazine.
Yeah. Well, that's actually what I turn to. When people ask me for a workout, I'm like, go pick up a magazine.
Yes.
If you want real training, come to me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, again, going back to opportunity, right? It opened up doors for me, even career-wise, that I would not have had otherwise. Now I'm doing I genuinely think I have the best career in the world.
Yeah. Working with kids and making a difference, and I think as Steve gets the chance to work with young ones, because he has a young guy that I'm kind of close to now, that will come back and tell me, man, thank you for introducing me to Steve, because he's making an impact and difference. And I see that with your kids, because I've said on previous episodes that I come on a Tuesday morning because I have a Bible study next to your gym, and I can see, a gym full of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds that are up there before the suns come up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've had teenagers. They're both in their, one's 27, the other's 24. Now to get kids out of their beds before the sun comes up, there's got to be a motivating factor. And I think your gym presents that, I know one thing that Steve's gym over on NOS Power always presents is impeccable technique, which leads to lifting more weight.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think yours is a little different because you're adding muscle to these kids, but you're going for the whole body to produce a better human being athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that with the kids. I see them out there, and there again, if you've been through the muscle grind, it is a grind. His gym's called Grindhaus, so the product you're getting before you get there. When you look at NOS Power, you're going to get power, but it's going to cost, right?
How good does it feel when you see those kids get up at 5 a.m. and get there? I mean, I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to put myself back in that position to be that young and get up to actually. I mean, that's got to. I mean, those are the. I mean, let's be honest. Those are the kids you look and go, yeah,
they get it.
Yeah,
they get it. I know. Yeah, no, it's super. It makes me feel so good. And then you try to talk to one of them at 5:30 a.m. and you're like, oh man, I need to give this kid another 30 minutes, Let's get you warmed up first. But because I'm kind of crabby at 5:30 a.m. But anyways,
especially when their parents kick them out of the car, right?
Open the door. It's awesome. It's well, one of the awesome things about our facility and something we take a lot of pride in, Steve, we run a conjugate system. We are retesting on things on a weekly and daily basis. And so there's so many opportunities for our kids to make progress and see the fruits of their labor. Yeah. I think that's a highly, highly motivating aspect of our facility. We don't handhold. We let them go out and do it. They're athletes. We go out and let them do athletic things, whether it's hitting a jump PR, sprint PR, lifting more weight, whatever the case may be. If before school is the only opportunity they have to get it in, they are chasing that carrot with everything they got. So it's almost like a small price to pay for a lot of these kids to make the progress they want, then go be fresh for practice after school and things. So it's it's part of the culture is making progress, and our kids are just chomping at the bit to do things they've never done before.
Steve asked me this because you work with a lot of adults that have developed strength, and they're trying to either tighten it up technique wise, and you're squeezing it out of them, and you're working with young kids that are performing in sports later in the afternoon and may not have the time to come back.
Correct.
Or they have to come back after their practice. Is there a difference there, Steve, that you see?
No, but I will say the biggest difference is an adult. As an adult, you have your life. When you make this move, you have it laid out. Children don't understand how to lay their lives out. So he's getting the opportunity to mold.
Almost giving them discipline.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is awesome just because he's getting to mold the next generation, not try to reshape somebody. When you get an adult, you're reshaping an adult that's already come in a shape. He's taking raw clay and he's molding. I mean, that's you're going to be something that's going to be in their life and in their mind forever. Yeah, I think that is awesome.
That. Yeah, and what's cool is your training would benefit from early years from Grindhaus.
There's nothing like getting an athlete because they understand. Yeah. They understand.
You don't have to teach mindset, and I think that's what we were talking about.
Well, sometimes we do. Our core values at Grindhaus. This is actually, we don't take on every athlete with a heartbeat and a credit card. We kick kids out all the time. Last week, I had to turn away 2 athletes in their consultations because it wasn't a good fit. And
what makes a not a good fit?
If I feel like they will bring in direct assault on our core values. They're our compass. They guide us where we want to be. Those 3 principles are the only 3 things that any of us or these kids have control over in life. So I take them very seriously. The first one's attitude. It's not having a smile on their face, because we all know, we've made a lot of great things happen with pissed off kids. You know what I mean? And so that's not it. It's really having a growth mindset. I don't know if you guys ever seen that video, the meme or whatever online circulating the internet of Steph Curry. I think they had just lost a game in the finals, and one of his teammates, Draymond Green, someone was walking by with their head down, and he comes up behind him, literally puts his hand on his chin and lifts his head up. That's what we're talking about. We have a growth mindset. We're here to get better. Business hat is on every day. Number 2, we demand amazing effort. That does not always come with the territory. Sometimes we do have to instill that part, right? So demanding high levels of effort and intensity on a day in day out basis is half the equation for the results we're looking for. The third thing is consistency. And that is being the same person every single day, but also showing up when they say they're going to show up. If they do those 3 things, they are going to achieve amazing feats of athleticism in our facility. But if I get a red flag in that consultation that they can't deliver on one of those 3 things, I'd rather not waste my time.
How many of the parents do you have to argue with?
Not many. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I was put in a very unique situation opening my facility, where I was still teaching, and the teaching at a local high school put food on my table for my family. So I didn't rely upon the gym to produce a paycheck. And what that allowed me to do was, I was, like I said, I was burning the candle at both ends. So I didn't want to hang out with kids that, didn't deliver on those 3 items. So I just candidly started kicking kids out.
So you set a precedent.
Absolutely. Over time, only the kids I wanted remained, and they brought their friends that were like them.
And they warned them probably too.
What's that?
They probably warned them.
100%. Yeah. Oh, we're so black and white, just like our coach came in our gym. It is so in our blood that, the standard is the standard, and you can get with or get out. And I don't know any other gyms like that. And so ultimately, what ended up happening was that compounded over months and years to where now, man, it is very rare that we get a bad seed kind of family, parents we have to contend with, things like that. Because again, we attract high-level, high-quality families that understand the assignment and understand what they're coming to us for. So the expectations are clear both ways when they're starting. No one's mad. You know what I mean?
Respect that. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I love about you, because I never considered my daughter played college tennis, and she chose a high level school, and I never thought I was the helicopter parent until 10 days after her junior year, when I got a call from a coach in Rhode Island, and he said, "Mr. Touchstone, I've been waiting 3 years to tell you this. I'm not recruiting you. I want to talk to Taylor."
Wow.
And I go, "Well, can you?" He goes, "Yes." And he goes, "You better get ready for these phone calls, because I was that helicopter parent and I didn't realize it. I had no idea. The coaches knew it, and they were waiting to get past me to get the real conversations with my parents. So I realized it, and I didn't consider myself that way. So I kind of felt like, oh, wow.
You don't have a choice, because you have bred a championship through yourself.
Right.
And so you're watching and you're not hovering. I'll take an example. I went to watch my nephew, and I tried to stay so far back in his practice, and I just kept feeling myself inching forward and forward, because now I'm watching his footwork. I'm watching the way he's arching, and I'm feeling myself, and I was like, almost I want to sit on my hands, because you are like, okay, I see, that's my daughter, that's my prize. I know what it takes to breed a champion, so you don't have a choice.
Well, it's one of those things that I can feel for it, but I like what you do, because it did put me in my place, and I love what the rule stated, because he says, "Now, Mr. Touchstone, you can give me her phone number or hand the phone to her." And I asked Taylor, I go, "Hey, Coach Springs is on the phone. You want the phone or you want to call him?" She goes, "Oh, I got his number. I'll call him." And I was like, ugh. So I hung up. She ran in her room, shut the door. And I was like, "I'm out. I'm out." But it was just, it was so I appreciate what you're doing, because parents, some may know what they're doing, but some may not.
I think with you, it's easy for the parents to, like, if I was to drop a child off, knowing your history, what's going on with your gym, knowing the history, and I'm dropping my child off to be a better athlete. Sure. How easy it is to walk away. It'd be like if you dropped your child off to Charles Glass to go be a bodybuilder. You'd be like this.
Right.
All right, bye.
Yeah.
It would not bother you, because you're like, oh, you're going to learn the right way.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Charles is amazing.
I don't need to hover. It's cool. Tell me about your day later. We'll have the conversation on the way home eating ice cream.
Absolutely.
Can I breach a conversation that Steve and I've had many a times? And what about chemicals? What's it like out there, or what's it like when you're trying to get the most out of a young athlete, where you know that chemicals are out there? They're easy to get. That's why I appreciate Steve. Steve said, "Hey, let me help you get the most out of what you've got, because if we can do that, the next step, should they turn to it, which is chemicals," because I still believe this. I believe everybody at the world level is taking a PED. And I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody out there. I just know it's just something that every athlete has to cross.
Absolutely.
Personally. So what do you see out there with chemicals? Do you see people coming to you with chemicals? And, how do you deal with it? I'm not saying you got to, rat everybody out.
No.
But I mean, it's probably what I would say is probably, Steve, and you and I have talked honestly about it, it's probably the taboo subject anytime you get athletes together.
I'll help you out here.
Thank you,
I
Steve.
have something to say
It's
about that.
the parent who has decided
Expectation.
that their child is better than what they truly are. And the parent is now the one chemically doing their child, not the
Living
child.
their life through the child.
Oh, when we were in high school, I was in high school, kids would drive down to TJ and take it. It's gone from the kids going to TJ to take it to the parents giving it to their child because they want their child to go to the next level, and you're only setting your child back because the next level there's testing.
Bingo. So you just hit it on the head. You have to discourage it because it kills their confidence when they're off of it.
Yeah, well.
And I've just seen too many guys go to the next level and they're nothing without it. Because it's such a big part of their performance. And so
I can name like so many names that experience that wall.
Mm-hmm.
Experience the wall.
Especially the double A. You hit that double A program. It's not the double 2A where you got where nobody's coming around, but you're trying to get your child into a major program. and you're enhancing your child, the first thing that coach is going to tell him to do is drop your pants. Let me see the needles. And yeah, your child's coming home and he's going to be crushed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we are living in a performance era. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, I saw it creep into my daughter's sport of tennis, and a couple of her friends got, popped for heart medication, which, is interesting because I'm on heart medication now. And, I don't get it, but I'm not taking the one that would probably help me.
Mm-hmm.
I've took a lot of stuff that's medically and veterinarian approved, but they were never for gaining muscle.
Right.
They don't make that for gaining muscle, right? I mean, it's just like, hello. And so, but it's a tough conversation. And I've shared my anabolic abuse. I had stage 4 kidney disease. So, I mean, it's like, it's for me, it's people wanting the shortcut.
Yes.
Whether it be a parent or an athlete, and there are no shortcuts.
Yes.
And I love it when people like Steve are out there to encourage him, because people are going to look at Steve and have influence. They're going to look at you, and they're going to see you, and they're going to see the results you have. And it's encouraging to know that there's people guiding people, adults and youth, in another direction.
I don't compromise in what we just spoke about with it killing their confidence. By the same token, I played junior college football. There is no testing. It is the Wild West, and so it's an interesting dichotomy, because I'm also of the mind that, and I'm just going to keep it really real with you guys. If everyone else is cheating, don't be the guy that's not,
I tell that to a lot of athletes.
I think we're all on the edge.
You have to.
I really are. Well, I mean, I trust Steve with my life, literally, because I'm working with him and he's given me some product that's new and it's working. I've told you that.
Yes.
And I love it. And it's not illegal, but it's edgy.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to be edgy, because we're going to be edgy. I mean, caffeine's performance enhancing.
100%.
The INBA's list is that's a book. The double A. The double A. I had a young lady that she got a 1-year suspension from the U.S. lifting. She was on the U.S. lifting team, and it was because of a pre-workout.
Mm-hmm.
A simple pre-workout.
There was a Florida State quarterback a couple years ago. He was a 5-star recruit, and he was set to start, and he ended up, Lord knows what he got popped for, right? But he got whatever it was over the counter. And he lost his scholarship. And I would just hate for one of my kids. Can you imagine?
Well,
you know what I mean? You got to be so careful.
What if you ran across the original case of orange?
Well, and that's what it comes down to. Is
you would be popped. I mean, because it actually had.
When I have people come in all the time that they talk to me, and I'm like, as much as I want to give you this product,
right?
You have to go and talk to your board and find out what is on the testing, because I know the book, it looks like this. And these ingredients, when you read one ingredient, it looks like this, because there's that many words. So you have to figure out which one of those words come back to that trace ingredient that's going to be banned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know better than anybody, that safe for sport list of acceptable supplements is so small.
Very.
It is so small. And so, the kids have to do their own homework. I think Steve's doing the Lord's work, being honest with people. Yeah.
Well, there again, I worked with a lot of professional athletes on tests, speeding tests. And Lord, I mean, I knew how, I beat tests. I mean, it's like, hey, and I wasn't natural, except for the 87 national, which I did GH, and that's growth hormone, but I didn't do any anabolics. So I was proud of myself for then being as natural as possible, but that doesn't cut it. It's what I did, and I'm paying for it. So I love what you do.
I want to hijack the conversation, the direction we're going. So in your gym, Mongo lift weight. Explain to the audience what differentiates your style of training, because most people out there just know Mongo lift weight. Explain how you create explosive, stronger, faster athletes without picking up the rock and putting it up and down over and over and over again.
Great question. So it all comes back to physics, the immutable laws of the world, man. You cannot cheat physics. And if you want to overcome, if you want to be fast, the speed kills. Every kid comes to me wanting to jump higher, run faster. It has to start with producing more force. It has to. If you can't produce force through the ground, you will not be able to jump. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, we're not trying to make power lifters. Our system is concurrent. So we're lifting heavy. We're also lifting fast, and they complement each other. You have to address both ends of the force velocity spectrum. But where the demographic we're dealing with, junior high and high school, athletes. These are volleyball players, football, baseball. Man, you look at the typical baseball team running around Kern County. They can't fill out those pants. You know what I mean? Those kids got to get strong to hit bombs. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, we do it in an intelligent way that's going to leave them fresh for practice and playing well on Friday nights, whatever the case may be. But we're not afraid to make our kids strong. I said it earlier. We don't handhold our kids. Mm-hmm. They're resilient. They can bounce back from getting hit by a bus. Now we have to do it responsibly. But it's a lot more than your typical 3x10 program they would find on bodybuilding.com or in their own high school weight room. We're really surfing the curve in that we're lifting heavy, we're lifting fast, we're sprinting fast, we're throwing intermediate velocities, and ultimately, we want to build a robust athlete that is capable of handling any tasks thrown their way, because sports are chaotic and weak things break. So I want to make sure that these kids, I think it's way more dangerous to be weak than to be strong. And so I want to make my kids strong and resilient, and wouldn't you know it, the stronger they get, the faster they get to a point.
It's amazing how that works out.
Yeah. Until they don't. And then we have to switch our focus to rate of force development and actually tapping into that strength quickly. Because, if you make a power lifter, there's a reason why power lifters don't run very fast.
Yeah, bulky's not aerodynamic.
That's right. But
where do you come up with these things, Steve? I love that.
Right.
I love
it's so true. Fat doesn't fly. You need muscle to move.
Yes.
And so
you go from being a running back to a pulling guard.
Muscle matters.
It does matter. And you know what I love about it, because we've all been bit by the iron bug. Mm-hmm. And as we do that, there's things that, even with kids, does a parent or a kid ever come to you and say, this is what I want to do, and you have to give some advice like, maybe you should switch a sport,
100%.
How do you go about that? If you're a parent out there, we all love our kids, but the best thing my daughter ever was, and I've told you, Blake, was that she got cut from the volleyball team because she picked up a tennis racket,
right,
and went to college, got a master's, and taught coach college and private and high school tennis, and but the best thing that ever happened was she got cut.
Yeah,
and cutting is the worst way to be told this isn't your sport. Man. So how do you get ahead of that curve?
That is such a great question. I love you asked that too, because this is my soapbox, man. Okay, so when you zoom out from the way the United States does things, elsewhere in the world, some of the best Olympic programs have a filtration system for genetics. We were talking about genetics earlier, right? So they put these athletes at a young age, like age 6, in the most versatile sporting endeavors, these being gymnastics and wrestling. From there, this is what the Soviets did for decades, and they were destroying us and everything, was they followed the rule of 3. Every 3 years, they would start filtering them into buckets of athletic qualities, saying, hey, you showed in gymnastics a predisposition for this kind of trait or whatever, right? This ability that's fits into this sport. They just started segregating them, kind of fanning out into all these sports, until by age 16, you're either a professional and globally ranked, or you're out of the sport altogether. America is to my knowledge, the only nation that allows kids to specialize in something like baseball since age 4, regardless of what they're good at, and just push them on year-round baseball until they're 18 and burn out.
Yep.
It's wild. Now, this is a hard conversation to have with parents, though. Because what are you going to do? Tell them that all their years of club practice and everything and all the money they've thrown just is worth nothing?
I can tell you how it happens.
Come on,
Your
man.
child runs out of the gym crying, and you're looking like, what happened? The coach comes over and goes, hey, she didn't make team. That's the truth.
She needs more volleyball.
That's personal experience.
Yeah. So I'm a huge proponent of multi-sport athletes. I mean, if you just look at the way the recruiting space is going, they don't. The best football coaches in the nation do not recruit single sport athletes. Nick Saban does not recruit solely football players. There's a reason for that. Urban Meyer doesn't. None of those guys do. And so, like, success leaves clues. You want to do what they're recruiting. But by the same token, if you want your athlete to have a robust skill set and be able to move in all those directions and have all those skills and abilities, they need to play other sports. And along the way, you might figure out the one they were supposed to play from the beginning,
I fell in that trap.
You answered that question I was going to answer.
So now tell us how you deal with coaches that want to call you and tell you how to work with their athlete. Does that ever happen?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't.
How do you avoid that?
And I wish it did. So I usually initiate that conversation.
I got you.
Here's the problem. Many, not all, we have great relationships with a lot of local coaches in town. But especially, I wouldn't even narrow it down to a specific sport. Let's face it, we're dealing with alphas. They're head coaches of their respective programs for a reason. They're probably good at what they do. And naturally, a lot of them really love the control aspect. And not only that, even the ones with the best intentions still want to keep all their athletes in the same room doing the same thing in the name of mental toughness or team building.
Yeah.
That doesn't always mean it's the best thing for their kids, right? So we've got some high schools in town that are just glorified puke fests. They literally just want to make their kids vomit every day, which is not great for athletic development.
That's true.
Any idiot can make any idiot tired, right? Ultimately, I come from the standpoint that, hey, we're all in this for the same reason. I want these kids to get amazing opportunities opened up to them because that was my experience, right? Looking elsewhere for extra work helped me get to places I would have never been able to without it. And ultimately, if we're really putting the kids' best interest in mind, I think we need to work together.
I agree there.
We have to complement each other. The coach that's coaching them on the field has to know what's going on in the weight room, and the weight room coach has to know what's going on in the field.
And that's why you go to their games.
You have to
see them perform.
And
that's why you go to their meets.
Absolutely.
Look them in the eye and shake their hands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There can't be a disconnect, especially if you're talking about winning more games and better performances. You can't thrash a kid in one setting and expect them to do well in the other. There has to be balance. They have to coincide, and it becomes very tough when you've got guys that they just do it this way because that's how they did it when they were playing high school 40 years ago, right? I always say it like this.
I like it when you said that they're alphas.
I don't remember where this came from, but it's this common thing. It's like, okay, you learned how to cook from your mother. She learned how to cook from her mother. Your grandmother learned how to cook from her mother. Okay, now you're a cook. Your great-great-grandmother was a terrible cook, so what does that make you? Yeah. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about strength and conditioning at the high school level, especially here because the current high does not pay to have strength and conditioning professionals on campus. When I was down in Mission Viejo, they all do. That's why they win a lot of games.
Yes, they do.
That's one of the reasons. But, I mean, there's such a disconnect between those two worlds. I think it's my responsibility and our coaches' responsibilities to really plug into these campuses, get on campus, go to their games, go shake hands with these people, show them that you actually care. You're not trying – you don't want to be in a power struggle for these kids'
You're not trying to steal their athlete.
Yeah, it's not our interest. Yes. I want them to win games.
Yeah, and you want them to play well for the coach.
100%.
Because you want to sit in the stand and go, like you want to sit there and watch them pull off the floor more weight than they've ever pulled before.
A lot of the time, and this is one of the patterns I picked up on, a lot of the time those same coaches that are control freaks over their kids are the same ones that don't win a lot of games, and they're the same ones that I just talk about ADHD. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
On air.
But you were right.
They're unsuccessful in other areas.
Yes.
They've
failed at something, and they're taking that failure at whatever they failed at, and they're breathing it on the children. I'll finish the sentence for you.
I love your analogy of your great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother. Yeah, that is cool. Well, Steve, why don't you have last comments? No, you finish up, and then Blake, you got the last comments.
Sure.
I like what you're doing. I like the things you say. I like how you say you shake the hands. I like that you have a principle in place to separate the parent who brings their kid to make him an athlete from the kid who wants to be the athlete. I think that's a huge differential. You've got the parent who wants to be an athlete, but their kid doesn't want to be an athlete versus the kid who wants to be the athlete. It makes a big difference. And you have something in place to set that up, and you have set a standard where the kids that are coming know, I've got to fit through that door.
Yes.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So if he tells me left, it's left. I don't get to ask the question. I don't get to go right. They understand practice, which is one of the things that separates the successful from the non-successful.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more.
It comes back to the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's your time. Wrap it up.
It goes back to those 3 principles, man. Attitude, effort, and consistency. I cannot expect any more from my kids. I can't expect them to do things that are out of their control. And by the same token, one of those messages that we preach to our kids is only care about the things you have control over. But the rest is white noise. You got to be able to block it out. But this is a John Woodenism. I'm a huge fan of John Wooden.
I am too.
He defines success by the effort you put in. If you did the best you possibly could, then that is success. No matter if you got a college scholarship or you won the Valley Championship or whatever the end result was, the accolades given, if you did the best you could, that's all that matters. And you can rest assured the rest of your life knowing that, like, you're not that guy living in the yearbook saying, well, when I played high school, I had a dad come in with his son last week, and he goes, well, if you were around in the 90s, you would know who I was, And I'm like, probably didn't accomplish much. Or, you probably left something on the table, or else you wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to be like that. I want them to control what they have control over, build amazing habits that'll carry with them, whether they get to be a professional athlete or not. I know they're going to be a great husband, father, brother, son, and hopefully carry that on with the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
Well, I love the thoughts that we always do, and I have a reel and a TikTok that I do called Morning Pump, and the basis is 1 Thessalonians 5:23, mind, body, spirit, because they all go together.
Yes.
They all go together, and I love that. We've got somebody who trains kids with that philosophy, and I've got somebody that I know that helps provide the right nutritional substance into people's body with that same focus.
I can't let him go without pulling his pant leg up.
You guys, that's up to you.
No, he was.
There she is.
Yeah, all right.
There she is.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. I'm okay now.
Yeah.
There it is. Hey.
Yeah.
Straight from Texas.
Yes.
I used to have a herd. So the herd ran off. Hey, we're so glad you joined in Muscle Matters, because muscles do matter. Hey, catch Blake on Lunch Break and Ministry Matters. Great show. Blake, it is so good to have you in my life. Love it, like I have Steve in my life.
You too.
I feel fortunate to be able to do this, and want to thank MLH Productions and 511 Media Group, because we believe in faith, family, and freedom. We find it in Christ. If you can find it someplace else, hey, power to you. But make sure those 3 things are a substance in your life. God bless.